You extraordinary man.
Oh, it's all becoming clear now. The Doctor is the man you'd like to be, doing impossible things with cricket balls.
Well, I discovered a talent, that's only true.
Yeah, but the Doctor has an eye for the ladies.
The devil.
A girl in every fireplace.
Now, there I have to protest, Joan. That is hardly me.
Says the man dancing with me tonight.
That scarecrow's all askew.
Ever the artist. Where did you learn to draw?
Gallifrey.
Is that in Ireland?
Yes, it must be, yes.
You're not Irish.
Not at all, no. My father, Sydney, was a watchmaker from Nottingham. And my mother, Verity, was...
Welcome once again to the Tin Dog Podcast. This week, we've seen, well, perhaps the best episode of this season. If you're listening to this in order to hear me have a go at human nature, well, I'm sorry, that's just not going to happen. But before I go into the review of this week's show, I've got a few more announcements. I have had an email or two from people wondering where last week's show was. Last week's review of 42 does exist. It has been uploaded. It is on iTunes. But unfortunately, or rather fortunately, I also uploaded another file. Now, someone who listens to the show, TARDIS, created for me a promo, which I'm eternally grateful for. And what I did was I uploaded the show, the review of 42, and then I uploaded the promo. And many of you saw the promo as last week's episode. So I am sorry, the files are there. Just go back to iTunes, upload them, they're all there. I am very grateful for the promo, and if anyone feels the need to put it into their show, go for it. It's what it's there for. So remember, last week's episode, it does exist, it is out there. You can always get it from the Tin Dog website. I don't know why it plays my voice so loud and squeaky when you play it. I will have a word with Libsyn and see if they can fix that. Or perhaps it's something to do with my file transfer, but either way, that's not important. The important bit is that last week's episode does exist, it is out there, and you can get it. But let's talk about this week's. Well, first off, I also need to point out that some people did indeed manage to download last week's show, and they all pointed out my same error. I admit I was watching the episode before I did my review, and I wasn't paying as much attention as I normally did. And for a Doctor Who fan, that's obviously an enormous sin, not paying as much attention as I should. Basically, I didn't hear the bit of the Who had the most hits, Elvis or the Beatles, was pre-download. I missed out the bit that said pre-download. I'm sorry. Obviously, that means that one or the other is correct. I tried looking it up, and to be honest, it really do get different answers. I don't want to sound like Martha's mother. Some people say it's the Beatles, but do you count remixes? I just don't know. Anyway, other people have also emailed me asking me if I'm going to be doing other shows on other Doctors, on the classic series. Well, of course the answer is yes. I am a long-time fan of the classic season. I mean, let's look at it. I've already done overviews of the first, second and third Doctors. I've got programmes planned for two Tom Baker overviews, a Davidson, a Baker and a McCoy, and one reasonably short show on Paul McGann. However, in the long run, I also intend looking at all of the big finishes. So as far as I'm concerned, Paul McGann, an extremely good Doctor, will have a very long show. So don't worry, I will be getting back to those, but obviously with new Doctor Who being broadcast, I'll be reviewing this show. But then again, you only have to wait, 4 or 5 weeks? And then I'm back to the normal run. I also intend doing shows on the 3 different histories of the Dalek people, the Doctor's family, lots of other things. People have asked me for specific reviews of specific shows, specific stories, which I'm definitely going to do. I'm probably going to start off with The Invasion. That's the Troughton story with the animated bits. My feelings about the animated bits will become clear in that show. So don't worry, the Tin Dog Podcast isn't going to vanish once the new series is gone. I will keep going. And to that end, in case you missed last week's show, I need to tell you that I've also added the Tin Dog podcast to Podcast Alley and Pod Planet. So if anyone feels the need to leave comments or anything, they can do it there, or vote, or whatever you do with Podcast Alley. I wasn't quite sure, but larger audience, everyone gets to find out about the show. Always a good thing, he said, possibly. I also, of course, created the MySpace group, which was discussed in last week's episode. Now, I know 2 or 3 of you had joined that, but of course you might want to join that as well. So remember, you just open up your MySpace account, open up the groups option, and type in Tin Dog, all one word. That'll take you straight to the Tin Dog podcast. And then you can, Tin Dog podcast group, and you can say hello, leave messages for other people who've listened, that sort of thing. Leave me messages saying, why I want to show on this, and that's what I'll do. I suspect I have so few listeners that I, will reply to any emails I get. That's tin, T-I-N, hyphen, dog, G-O-D, at hotmail.co.uk. Right, I think that's everything covered. I'm sure there'll be something else. There was, of course, the obvious thing I wanted to talk about 42 as well. Nobody at all seemed to pick on the crapness of the monster. The design was rubbish. My sister's a welder. My sister has one of those masks. She's not scary to me at all. And I don't know, I just wasn't impressed. I would have been more scared if he'd been wearing a space suit with one of those gold visors, and the gold visor would lift up. I was just thinking that would look slightly better. But of course that's just a personal opinion. Enough of 42, not my favourite one of the series. 2, well, what is now classed as my favourite. It's the highlight of Season 3 so far, the only problem of which I'll discuss at the end, which isn't really a problem. I mean, let's face it, it's Paul Cannell. Now, I know I'm on record as saying that Father's Day is not my favourite story. Well, that's everyone. I don't think that Doctor Who deals with, oddly, time travel very well. I don't think any of the stories with time travel at its heart, or as part of the plot, really work for me, because the Doctor knows the rules and he stays away from them. But I know Father's Day has its fans out there, and I'm not going to rain on their parade. It's just saying it wasn't my favourite. However, this was just lovely. I know one of the reasons I love it is because its nods to the past run throughout. You've got the Notebook, which for me is the complete star of the show. Now I know everyone's going, Martha's brilliant. Martha becomes the Doctor in this story. She is the central character who has more knowledge than everyone else. So in a sense, she's the Captain Jack, the focus of the show. And the Doctor isn't the Doctor, of course. He gets to be someone else. David Tennant's performance as someone who isn't the Doctor is extremely good. It's nice that we can see the other things. I mean, obviously the guy played the Pillow Man, which is something I would have loved to have seen. If there is a video copy or a DVD copy of that in existence anywhere, please let someone release that or make it downloadable or something. It's got to be out there somewhere. The Pillow Man is something. If you haven't experienced it and it's ever on at the theatre, just go and see it. Anyway, he was in the original cast, by the way. I'm not just rambling. That was a great performance. Martha was great. The whole cast was very, very good. If you are going to have any problems with this episode, it's going to be something really picky. It's going to be something like, the scarecrows. Now, do me a favour next time you're watching the episode, because I know you're going to watch it again. Go, hey, yeah, right. In your head, next time you see one of the scarecrows lollop, basically, they're members of Oasis coming at you. Now, to be fair, that does make them slightly more scary. But as I troll through the internet, nobody else seems to have mentioned this. But I was just sitting there going, surely that's one of the Gallaghers. But then again, perhaps that was just me. Oh God, I know you liked it. You don't need to hear my review. But the fly in the ointment is next week's episode. Now, I know at the very end there was flash forwards to the Doctor's life when he marries the nurse. And of course that was probably designed to mess with people's heads on Outpost Gallifrey and all of the rest of the internet and make people go, oh no, this is going to happen. But obviously, we're a bit more TV savvy than that. We know that that's just a possible future. And would that mean that the Doctor's offspring would be pure human? Let's face it, he's had his DNA rewritten, but I'm not completely sold. But of course, that's a potential future just to wind up people on the outposts. So I'm not going to fall for that. I loved the story. I loved the notebook. I loved the references to the old series. I loved the fact that it took something we love so much and took it somewhere new. A long time ago I read a Paul Cannell book. It could have been no future. And in it the Doctor is making, this is the 7th Doctor by the way, it's one of the Virgin novelisations. The Doctor's off in a corner and he turns up and he's been missing for a while and they ask him what he's been doing. And the answer is, I've been making clay Zygons. In my younger years, I actually made one of these clay Zygons and sent one to Paul Cannell. And there's a picture of one on the MySpace group. So if you want to see the thing I made, feel free to look there. It's in the pictures options. For me, the only problem is, well, do you remember years ago, you were sitting there, you were watching a Tom Baker story, and it was the invasion of time. And at the time, you were sitting there going, this is a great story, this is fantastic. And in the last 2 episodes, it all goes, and I don't like using this word a lot, pear-shaped, Pete-tong, wrong. It just kind of falls apart. It's a fabulous story, and then it just kind of peters out. Now, most people think that episode 1 was absolutely fabulous, but because we've experienced things, we've been burnt in the past, we're just worried that part 2 couldn't live up to how good it was. But we know Paul's a very, very good writer, and we know this team really is behind the show. So perhaps part 2 could be as good as we hope. But either way, we've got pictures of the notebook, and God, it's a lovely thing. I'll leave you now. I've rambled far too much. Remember, you can contact me at tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. See you next time. Be seeing you.